welcome to Anmareesworkshop. My name is Anne-Marie and I love to make things with joy. Today I'm working on the Kaffee Fasset challenge. This is a sew-along on how I create the dress that I want to enter in the challenge using one of my favorite patterns, Vogue 1735. I think it's also known as another name. I have made several concoctions of this dress. I have made a jumpsuit, actually 2 jumpsuits with this pattern. I'll show them over here. I have also made a robe. I call it the Phoenix robe. I'll include that over here somewhere. And I have made a pineapple dress and a kaleidoscope dress. So I also have a sew along for this pattern in the kaleidoscope dress. I'll show you the thumbnail over here if you're interested in making one for yourself. This is one of my favorite patterns. Now, the first thing I have to do is find a fabric that would support what I want to add on here. So I am looking to use my quilting skills to use some Kaffee Fasset fabrics to make this a really spectacular dress or robe. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. Now I'm going to use my 3 mini wedge rulers to create a pattern fan of quilted materials. But before I can decide which ones to use, I can already tell this is too big. I had to select a fabric that could support the applique of what I want to put on it. So with these 3 mini wedge rulers, I misplaced my original set in the move here and I bought another set on Amazon. But these are the possible designs that you can make with making strata, which is making lines of fabric and cutting them with these wedge at either a 45-degree angle or a 60-degree angle. Don't let your eyes glaze over and get frustrated. It's really quite simple. So this pattern design is the one I want to use because the back of this particular pattern, if you place it on the fold, it can support the fan on the back. And then because it's a grown-on sleeve on the side, it can support half a fan on either side. So I think if I make the entire circle, I will have enough material to add onto this dress. So here we go. So first things first, I selected this knit to support the cotton I'm going to put on top of it. I have made a jumpsuit and pants out of this material, and it's really structured. It's kind to my apple shape, as well as it provides support. So now, first things first, this is piece number 2. This is the upper back. And normally this would be cut in 2 separate pieces. This would not be placed on the fold. So I'm going to cut this on the fold because I want a continuous piece to put my applique on and my quilted applique. So I'm going to put this on the fold, and I'm going to eliminate that 5/8 seam by moving this all the way over to the edge of the fabric and placing that on the fold. Now, as you can see, I have cut out the back piece, and here's the 5/8 seam that normally would have been included in the back, but I've eliminated it and placed it on the fold so that when I open it up, the back is going to be one piece. Remember, I'm hacking this pattern. I'm not sewing it in the traditional manner in which the instructions that came with it are carried out. Okay, now the front does not have to be made any accommodations because the front is going to be sewn in the same way it's been cut out. It's not going to be adjusted. I'm not taking any seams off. I'm just going to cut it in the same way. Now, I've used this pattern so very often. As a matter of fact, I think after this point, I'm going to cut out a muslin for it because it's one of my favorite dresses of all times and so very versatile. So I'm going to cut this out now, and I'll have my pieces on which to put my applique. I'm going to hold on a little bit to decide whether or not I am going to cut out the skirt, or I have a pair of pants that I use to make my jumpsuit pattern, but I think it's going to be a dress. It's either going to be a dress or a robe or a duster. I think a duster would be nice, but we'll see, because it's just a matter of how I attach the front. Okay, so let me cut out the front and we'll be ready to begin. Do not let the complexities of this pattern scare you. It's really kind of straightforward if you slow it down. Now that I have the front and the back pieces cut out, now it's time to build the fan pattern out of fabrics that I have collected together to form the fan. Now, in the instruction, they call what I'm going to build first the strata. That means I'm going to sew together strips of fabric in a pattern, in a complementary or contrasting pattern, that eventually I'm going to take those wedge rulers that you saw once I have a 13-inch piece, and I'm going to place the ruler flip back and forth to create that zigzag pattern. It's really very simple. It's just really stunning when it comes together. Okay, so let me show you the piece of fabric that I used as my inspiration to choose my colors. Okay, so this is my motivation or my inspiration. It's a very thick, beautiful, genuine Ankara fabric, full 100% cotton, fully thick. And so that's why I chose this material as my base. I do have some lovely fluttery black material, but I need something substantial that can support all the different cottons that I put on top of this fabric. So let's see some of the fabrics that I'm inspired to use in my strata. There's black, of course. And here's white, of course. These are some of my favorite Kona cottons from JoAnn Fabrics. This is a Kaffee Fasset pattern fabric. Oh, and here is another Kaffee Fasset pattern, and another one. Now my Kaffee Fasset patterns, I was kind of low on his fabric, so I actually had to purchase some from Amazon, and I will include the link below of the different ones I chose, but they have quite a bit. All right, and let's see. Here's another Kaffee fabric, and here is a solid purple Kona cotton, and this is a lovely red rose print from my friend Kathy in Minnesota. And last but not least, I have a solid red from it's a Kona cotton from JoAnn Fabrics. And I have a few small pieces. I don't know if it'll work, you know, but these were from when I was there last November at JoAnn Fabrics, and they had some fat quarters. So knowing I need 8 stratas that are 13 inches high, most likely these would have to be very thin. But here are some of the, these are the patterns these are the fabrics I've chosen. I think the little hint of the yellow, I'm not sure about this one. I love it, but the green is off program. So that makes it a little different, but I do like it. But when I take it away, that is more like what goes with this. And then the brilliant blue and the purple and stuff like that. But I like it, so we'll see. But the green is off, all right? Yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to use the green, but everything else works so well. One of the great things about cutting this out is I now know that this huge ruler is not the right one. This little tiny one is not bad, but I really do believe it's going to be this one, which is, I believe, my, let's see, put the glasses on again. This is my 18-inch. And I think my 18-inch is going to give me that reach that will go all the way down there, which I like. Whereas this one is not going to quite reach there, even though it fits within. I do believe it's going to be this one. Because when you make this arch, you'll see that the center, for me, let me show you, that the center of the center that I'm trying to make isn't an additional piece. I'm just looking for this curve. So I'm looking for this space. I don't have to have the center medallion. Okay, so I laid my fabrics together and figured out what my strata is going to be. And that's a fancy word for lining up my fabric. And here's an example of one of them. They're all identical. In order for me to get that reverted pinwheel look, they all have to be identical. So as I sew each one, I fold it over to get the 45-degree angle, because when I lay my triangle against it, let me reverse the camera and show you what I mean. Okay, so after I figured out the order in which I wanted all of these fabrics to go, remember I'm going to need it to be 13 inches high in order to fit on my garment. Because the triangle I'm going to use is going to use the 45-degree angle, which is right here, to go parallel and touch on the line. All right, and it's going to give me the design I want. If I turn it over this way and I find the 45-degree angle and I get it to sit on my fabric so that it's straight, I would waste a lot of strata if I had to wait till I got all the way down here before I could fit this angle in. Okay, so that 45-degree angle will fit, but I'd lose all of this. So when I attach each piece of strata, I fold it a 90-degree angle actually. And that is where I start the next piece of strata. And then with this little teeny little guy, I fold that over, and I fold this over, and each one I added, and making that little perfect triangle is where I started the next piece of strata. All right, so do you see how that all kind of worked together? All right. Okay, so I have completed 6 strata, and I really do like how the colors look close to each other. And when I make the wheel, I think it's going to be even more stunning. Now remember what my base fabric, this is what it was inspired by, and this is what the strata looks like. So now I'm going to lay each layer out, and I'm going to try and cut out as many triangles or wedges as I can get out of each strata, because the reason I need the full circle is because I need the half circle on the back of the garment, and then 2 quarter circles on the very, very front. Okay, let's see how it works. All right, so following the instructions that I got from my ruler, since I am making this pattern, I was going to end up, when I cut out my wedges, I was going to end up with 2 complete circles. So one direction, my 45-degree liner, I would line it up with the black section. And then when it was time to turn it around, I would line it up with the top of the purple line. So I ended up cutting out all of those wedges, and what I did to help myself out is that I used my front and back dress top and placed them to make sure that I had enough wedges to do the effect. Okay, so this is how I laid it out. Sorry. I laid it out. So this is kind of the effect I wanted on the back. And I wanted the opposite effect on the front. But you see, by laying them out, I can be sure that I haven't made any mistakes. That's enough for today. I don't want to start making mistakes by being fatigued. It's very enjoyable. It's very intriguing. It's something different, something challenging. But I did end up with 2 extra strips of strata that either I'm going to use in some capacity on this duster, or I can end up using it on one of my quilts. We'll see. But this is a good like halfway point. When I come back, what I would like to do is sew my wedges together, stitch them onto my pattern pieces after I put my my darts and my notches on my pattern pieces, and then we'll see how it looks initially, and maybe there's be more space for more ornamentation. I don't know. We'll see. So tomorrow's another day. Morning and time to start again. Today I'm going to sew my wedges together and place them on top of my garment. I don't know if that's all I'm going to do today, but I have company coming. My brother's flying in from Japan. So I want to make sure that I pin my wedges in place so that my lines, my seams match up. Don't want to do all this work and then have it look more than the zigzag I want it to look. Once I sewed my wedges in place and placed them on the front of the garment, it required 2 more wedges to cover. You know, once I did the 1/8 seam to attach my wedges. So I'm going to need to cut, to do the other half, and I'm sure the back, I'm going to need to cut 4 more wedges to complete the other side, and I'm sure I'm going to need more wedges for the fan on the back of the garment, because the seam encompasses more of the fabric than I thought. But so far, I really like the look, and I'm convinced that the choice I made for the background fabric is exactly right, because this is a substantial piece of fabric, and the lightweight viscose that I had, that I was originally going to put it on, I don't think it could support it as well. I'm probably going to use that black to make a beautiful underdress and use this definitely as a duster. Okay, so I'm about to attach the fans onto my garments that I've already pre-made. I've put the darts in, the pleats in that very forgiving knit fabric. What I did not include, and I'm so sorry, is that I had used a black bias tape, 1/2 inch, to go along the top of the fan. And that's what I'm going to use as my attachment, what I'm going to stitch on top of when I sew my fan in place. I'm also going to stitch along, I'm going to choose one of these zigzag lines, probably on 2 levels, to secure it by stitching in the ditch to secure it to the back of the upper bodice. Now, this is the stage of the construction where I'm using the edge of the bias tape that I stitched to the top of the wedge as my guide as I secure it to the background fabric. So I'm taking my time so that I get a nice, smooth finish that lays flat. Now, this is the stage where I'm going to anchor more of the wedge piece onto my background fabric. I chose two lines on the design to stitch in the ditch in a zigzag fashion along the edges of the seam allowances on this pattern. I chose the maybe about three designs of the strata down. I went back and forth as you see me doing a stitch in the ditch method, and then a little closer to the bottom of the fan and the bottom of the wedge, I chose another line. I believe I chose where you're seeing the little thin strip of purple. I think I chose that to help secure it in place because I don't want any sagging or any buckling after I decide to sew the entire piece, the entire garment together. Now that I secured the wedge in place, it's time to trim away any excess strata that's sticking out. Now that that's done, it's time to attach the two front bodice pieces to the back bodice piece. I like to use a French seam, even though these seams will not ravel. I just think it gives it a nice, good structure and a nice finish. All right, so now I used that fabric that was my inspiration to create my own self-made bias tape. I did not include the instructions on how to make that because there are several videos that I will link with a card to show you how to do that. I especially like the one by Mari Sews, and there's also one by Marcy Harrell, but I will link them so that you can see how to make your own bias tape. So I use the bias tape to finish the edges of the neckline and the hem and around the sleeves on this duster. Along the way, I left out the video of sewing the side seams. I made two ties that will cross in the front. I have to admit, I'm really pleased at how this project turned out, and I'm really glad that there was a challenge. I do love myself some Kaffee Fasset, and I think I'll get a lot of use out of this duster. It looks really good with my black jumpsuit, This is my catch that I bought, I believe, at JoAnn's Fabrics. Whenever I find an interesting catch, I tend to pick it up because they're very, very useful. But as you can see, it fits very, very well. It's very, very striking. I'm really, really pleased with how it turned out. And I enjoyed this challenge. Looking forward to the next one.